CIO News. I am Simran Shiwalkar, a journalist at CIO News and your host for today. This session is being recorded and it will be available on our website cionews.co.in, on our YouTube channel and our LinkedIn handle as well. Today we are back with yet another episode from our exclusive series called CTO Unplugged. We are joined by Mr. Sandeep Alur. He's the CTO at Microsoft Innovation Hub India. With over 25 years of experience in tech, spanning roles at Genesys Software, Wipro, and Microsoft, he is a leading voice in technology and data science. Join us as we explore his insights on emerging technologies, innovation, and his journey throughout the tech world. Mr. Alur, thank you so much for joining us today.
Simran, hi, and first of all, thanks so much for having me. I look forward for a conversation.
Absolutely. And with that, I would like to understand from you about your journey, a remarkable experience of 25 years spanning Genesys Software, Wipro, and then Microsoft now. Can you share a bit about this journey and your role as a CTO, the key factors contributed to this journey?
Thanks so much for the question, Simran. In fact, I must admit, my journey started as a developer, and even today, I think like a developer. Probably that tenet has remained right through my 27 years of industry experience. But let me put it this way. If you look at CTO as a persona, as a role, it has evolved with changing times. The digital optimism is probably the highest ever we witnessed so far. With changing times, the role has also morphed itself into, I would say, more than a CTO. In my way, it's CTIO, Chief Technology Innovation Officer. See, innovation has been one of the KRA for a CTO for a long time. But right now, making that innovation part of the destinations has become critical, right? If you look at CTO, yes, he or she is looked at as a strategist, innovation officer, right? One persona who define a technology strategy for an organization. That's been the expectation from a CTO. But with tech being on a fast track, technology being on a fast trail, we're not seeing the pace of innovation like we're witnessing today ever before, right? Generative AI to be precise. Now, that has put CTO in a front seat, right? Not that persona was not in the front seat before, but front seat with all controls given as a privilege and autonomy for a CTO to innovate and transform the company. Never happened before, by the way, right? Personally, I've been in a lot of these boardroom conversations in the recent past, and CTO's voice is critical in those conversations, right? Of course, the question you may have later is, how can CTO have that, dominant voice seat in the board meetings, etc. That's a build-up that happens for sure. But long story short, I think CTO role has evolved significantly to become like an innovation officer, right? That's number one. What has contributed? I think largely, if you look at in the last 2 or 3 decades of digital transformation that we've seen in whatever capacity, the tech debt that enterprises have is significant, right? No enterprises is without legacy, without siloed data, applications being in abundance. So there's a problem with plenty in enterprises. And enterprises become complex over time, by the way, right? And again, no two enterprises are same. They're like snowflakes. No two snowflakes look alike, right? And hence, the market dynamics and competitive landscape is significant. So expectation for every company to be leader in what they do is number one priority for them. And biggest contribution here is the global footprint of digital innovations, right? The footprint of digital as an entity is more than ever, right? If in a tier 2, tier 3 city, if somebody using a smartphone and accessing information or watching even for that matter, a movie, the footprint is expanding, right? So for a CTO, all this has contributed for the CTO role to become a lot more important. Also, it become largely to be an innovation officer who's going to drive a strategy for enterprises, I would say competitive positioning, considering future growth.
Absolutely. And thank you so much once again for giving us a glimpse about the role and taking us through your journey. And rightly said, as there are more and more emerging technologies, the role keeps on evolving. There's a lot of, depth that gets added to these roles. So thank you once again, Mr. Alur. Next, I would like to hear it from you as a passionate tech-driven, persona, and as an aspiring data scientist. You've always been into this space for so long. According to you, what do you believe, the next emerging technologies, what kind of technologies would profoundly have, a great impact when it comes to, this domain?
Awesome. So this is a great question, Simran. Something is close to my heart. I'll tell you why I'm saying this, because for the last 5 to 6 years, my focus has always been, how can technology amplify human intelligence? And for that, the bridge between the human and the machine has to be rock solid. All these days, we could not say that machines understood us. Today, when you interact with ChatGPT, at some point you think, oh my goodness, is somebody there responding to my question? How can machine understand me so well, right? We never felt that before, right? That means the very aspect of human computer interaction as a field, in my view, is the most important tenet going forward. And it has to be a bridge between human and machines. Thankfully, generative AI or language understanding is a theme, right? NLG, natural language understanding, natural language generation, they've taken center stage. And this innovation has become a bridge between human and machine, right? So number one innovation, in my view, is AI. The base premise of AI has always been to mimic human intelligence, and that is absolutely becoming a reality as we speak. It is only a beginning, in my view. A lot more will happen. Number two, we spoke so much about metaverse before generative AI took front seat in the last couple of years. I still feel the so-called three-dimensional shared virtual space is essential for us to, be present where you physically can't go, right? And that can only happen if all the head-mounted devices that we wear today, be it virtual reality headgears, mixed reality headgears, they all eventually have to become like a wearable glass. So in my view, the combination of generative AI, ability for systems to understand humans, and ability for us to be omnipresent, ability for us to pretty much be wherever we want to be, despite physically not being there. That means I will have a digital twin of mine who probably is representing me as a human proxy in a shared virtual 3D space and getting some work done. I think these two streams, in my view, right now there are two swim lanes, Simran. They're going as a separate swim lanes, but somewhere they'll converge. And that convergence is what we're anticipating. That convergence will absolutely, take a lot of experiences, in multifold forward. I think that day we can say the true definition of human computer interaction is a reality. But of course, reality we've seen right now. But generative AI and metaverse thematic convergence would be significant for us to witness as we go along.
Absolutely. And what a fantastic point of view, because cloud had its own phase. And I think Gen AI, emerging technologies like AI and Gen AI, they are here to stay. And we really don't know for how long, but they're already making waves when it comes to, individually and, organizational level as well.
Absolutely. In fact, I can quote an example, right, on that note. While we're saying metaverse took center stage, but thankfully it took a backseat. I'll tell you why, because we were not seeing impact adoption happening on the metaverse stream because hardware innovation, form factor innovation was not happening at a pace that we aspired. But with generative AI, overtaking that conversation as a thematic is real. So while by the time the innovation on the form factor will happen, the conversation would have reached point in time in the future where it is very real and real time, honestly, to be real. It's more real time as you go along. I think that convergence will disruptive, transformative in that sense.
Absolutely. But along the same lines, with the rise of advanced technologies like Gen AI and big data, I'm also curious about, when it comes to the ethical considerations, what kind of, things need to be kept in mind, especially for companies, to ensure that they are responsible and beneficial for the use of technologies.
No, absolutely. I think when moment you think about AI, the ethical aspects of it come to the foray. Look, right now, we've been using AI very loosely, saying AI assistant or a co-pilot, right? Co-pilot, that means this AI assistant has no autonomy. Hence, it will not do anything without my permission, right? That's given. But slowly, in fact, Simran, this year, a lot of discussions are active on this very thematic called agentic workflows. That means these AI operating like agent. That means you're going to infuse a bit of autonomy. Autonomy is scary for AI, right? None of us want to give autonomy to AI because you know what? It is intelligent. With intelligence, big autonomy, it has to be done more responsibly, right? To your point, yes, responsible AI is central. Be it fairness, privacy and security, transparency, reliability and safety, which is what we expect the system to behave. Accountability if something goes wrong, and utmost focus on inclusiveness, right? So all these encapsulate or manifest what is called responsible AI. Now, how are we solving that in reality? All these days, some of the innovations that enterprises did were in miniature form, in some downstream systems, less of a consumer facing at scale. With ChatGPT, we witness, we can have a linguistic UI, which can be consumer facing, customer facing. When that happens, things can't go wrong, because when things go wrong, your users attrite. You don't want user attrition, right? So hence right now, a lot more focus is given to forming what we call as, I would say, ethics office of ethics in every company who are innovating on this trail. That means before any innovation is put to production, somebody has to put stamp saying, all responsible AI principles are a tick mark. It is absolutely fair. It is responsible. There is transparency. That means it is explainable also if something goes wrong, why it went wrong, and it is accountable, right? Because when something goes wrong, whom to blame? You can't blame a system, right? It has to be some human persona. So what we're seeing as a thematic emerging industry, it has to be a lot more, I would say it has done a lot more intensity. We don't see intensity yet, but large enterprises are thinking about forming a chief ethics office. You have a chief ethics officer as a persona. At times it is CIO or a CTO donning the double role here, but their role is critical to ensure that they're choosing the right models in the first place. Those models are tested for the ethical AI we spoke about. Number 3, it's been tested to an extent of if something goes wrong, what is the fallback and who is responsible, who's accountable? Are we financially responsible to compensate? All those things have been thought through. And finally, it's a cultural shift that one has to look at, because every single application that gets built, are people looking at, is it the most secure application built? Is the most responsible and ethically right? Those checks are not done today for every application. Like, look at it this way, Simran, if you look at security as a thematic, cybersecurity, now we did something shift left. That means security was the last thing you used to check after testing every functionality, by the way, in the SDLC, development lifecycle. But the last 3 years, we did something called shift left for security. That means security has to be the first thing you test before you test anything else. Likewise, for AI-driven systems, because every application will have infusion of AI, you will do shift left on ethical AI. That has to happen. That's the time you will see enterprise has arrived. That's where you will see advancement in technology to happen to help the shift left to become a reality.
Absolutely, and thank you so much for comprehensively covering the ethical aspect of responsive AI. Thank you once again, Mr. Alur. Next, I would like to hear it from you. You have led high-performing teams. It's one of the key aspects when it comes to technical leadership. Any key strategies or practices that you found, particularly effective in fostering excellence and collaboration amongst the team and the members?
Wonderful. I think this is something which probably what I'm going to say is something which one has to practice every day, right? If there's one thing that I make an effort every single day to see in everything I speak, do, and act, can I drive clarity, right? As a leader, number one aspect is to drive clarity on the mission, which is the purpose, the vision, which is the goal, and strategy, which is the plan. If you can get your team to understand the purpose, the goal, and the plan to achieve your goal, I think 90% job is done, honestly, right? I mean, that's my focus, that's my prescription for anybody in the current times when we look at technical leadership. By doing so, what am I doing? I'm actually building bridges within the team, because I have to recruit people into this thinking of why we're doing, what we're doing, and how we're doing it. Mission, vision, and strategy, right? Very critical.
Absolutely.
Many times when we miss the goalpost is because, there was no clarity on the mission, no clarity on what are we doing, why we're doing. That was something was lacking. Hence the miss. So my reflection, I've failed many times doing this, and my reflection is for me to literally succeed as a leader, technology leader, I have to be absolutely authentic in translating this into reality. That's number one. Number two, having done that to the team, I have to build bridges so that they can walk on the bridge. See, I can't say, go do this. These are the people that you have to collaborate with, because at the end of the day, fostering collaboration is critical to excellent execution. Unless I build bridges, unless I enable people to build bridges, nobody will walk on that. And the bridge has to be bidirectional, but the people have to walk both ways. They have to collaborate with that, we have to collaborate with them, right? That's number three. I think staying accountable. As a leader, if I can stay accountable in everything the team does, right? I can't back off saying, it's your problem, go figure it. No, I can't do that. It has to be my accountability as a leader. That means people feel they're in a safe environment, right? If there's somebody to, cover a back if something goes wrong, that persona is required. And I would say for teams to thrive, Simran, you have to infuse autonomy. Very critical aspect. You can't control. It has to be autonomy. And there has to be a culture to think and operate like an entrepreneur. Everybody says we want to think up like a startup. Every individual has to do that. And finally, in my view, the foundation in how I wish to operate, I think I operate that way, is servant leadership, right? I think in my view, these are the foundational aspects of how you can lead a high-performing team.
Absolutely. I think we all can gather some inspiration from that, right? From autonomy to accountability. Very well said, Mr. Alur. And thank you once again for answering that and drawing parallels from your own experience as well. Lastly, I would like to understand from you any key recommendations or practices or any message that you would like to give out to the aspiring CTOs or leaders in the tech space, who are just starting out their careers, any lessons that you would like to share?
Awesome. This is my favorite question, Simran, because I always reflect on what else should I do to succeed in this role, right? Now, if somebody is starting early in their career, if they aspire to become a CTO, looking at the T stand for technology, by the way, right? You got to be developer at heart. You got to be hands-on. Doesn't matter. You might be a CTO with 25 years of experience. I've seen CTOs who pretty much play with technology, hence they build the point of view and a perspective on its impact, right? If you don't play with technology, you don't know its impact. So number one, being developer at heart is very critical. Number two, having played with innovation, you should have a point of view and a perspective on its impact, right? Number three, you have to stay relevant. That's a foundation, right? People are looking up to you to transform the organization. If you are not relevant in the current times, you can't help them transform for the future. So that's number three. And you got to be a great storyteller also, because end of the day, technology is helping us, build bridges, transform lives, elevate customer experience. But it's also a story that you tell your board, tell your leadership in terms of how this innovation can transform our company. It can't be, I'm going to put AI there, it will change. No, it doesn't make sense, right? We will do something which will elevate the experience to all your level, and this is the outcome expected, and that has to be story. So having played with technology, you have to be a storyteller. And finally, in my view, if somebody has to look up to you and somebody has to respect your point of view and perspective, you have to build a brand equity, right? That's such an important element which many of us miss out. Many of us don't relate to it yet, but pandemic has taught us that lesson that, out of sight, out of mind. But a true heartbeat is your brand equity. True heartbeat is your presence. Even if you post something, your point of view, latest innovation on LinkedIn or Twitter or whatnot, that's your heartbeat, right? That heartbeat has to be active. That's what people relate to. That's what help people have an opinion on you as an individual and a leader, right? These are the 4 or 5 things. Even if people are thinking of walking this trail, start this early in your cycle so that when time is ripe for you to embrace the role, you have all this covered, you have a solid foundation built.
Great. And you said 4 or 5 things, but I think these are the key things that one needs to keep in mind. Especially for someone in tech, I think these are the absolute must that one needs to follow. And Sandeep, thank you once again for joining us today. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. So thank you for making it inspirational and insightful for me and our audience. I'm sure they have a lot to take away from this session. So thank you once again. As we conclude, I just wanted to let you know that I look forward to having more such conversations with you.
Simran, thanks for having. Love these questions. It really made me reflect on a lot of things. Otherwise, I love this conversation as well. Thank you so much for hosting me.
The pleasure is totally ours, and I look forward to connect with you again.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.